Football is back, and we had a plethora of awesome games. Notre Dame going on the road against Miami. Heartbreaking game. Although I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, there's hope to be had. The most hyped player in recent memory, Arch Manning, played against Ohio State. Alabama, they are not the Alabama of Nick Saban's era. They are different. LSU might just be one of the best teams in the nation, going on the road, beating Clemson. All of this and more college football deep dive. Here we go. Notre Dame going down to Miami, to the Hurricanes, losing 24-27. CJ Carr, new quarterback, coming in his first game starting. All right, I've got some thoughts on this. Scott, I'll let you start off here with the Notre Dame game.
It was heartbreaking. It was tough to see that first half. Honestly, 2.5 quarters, really weren't moving the ball. We weren't getting the ball to Jeremiah Love as frequently as I thought we would have in terms of establishing the run and getting him going early. You know, there were a couple plays that I think CJ was put under duress, which you
Jeremiah Love had 10 carries. I was like, what are we doing? I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, man. And you started seeing some good stuff happen where alleviating some pressures with CJ, getting it to Jeremiah in the pass game and everything like that. And that was helpful in the second half. And obviously it helped them get back into the game and get them a chance to win. It's really difficult to see. I'm a little surprised that they continue to go to the well of the QB draw of of things of that nature that were probably better executed with Riley Leonard last year. And just because he has better wheels and a better feel for the game, granted that is probably due to a lot of just experience because Riley had played many years before and CJ was coming in fresh off the bench and being a young guy. So it's tough to see, but at the end of the day, I'll lean on the fact that they fought back, they clawed back. It's so easy to just give up in a situation like that, especially when you're on the road, especially when you're up against a top 10 opponent. I said Miami was a bit of a paper tiger. Carson Beck is a big question mark. He played solidly. Receivers bailed him out a lot, but ultimately we died by 1,000 cuts with the paper tiger paper cuts. So that's what happened there. And
speaking of receivers bailing them out, I mean, this catch, I know this hurts, Scott. That was crazy.
Beautiful.
Like, all right. Sports Center top 10.
But as a former safety, as a former linebacker, drops in coverage, you gotta hawk the ball, not wait for it. That was painful to see right there.
Yeah, I don't know who 8 is, the safety right there. I mean, he could have just had if he just stuck his helmet right into the back of the receiver right there. What's that receiver's name, dude? CJ Daniels. Like, I mean, but it worked out.
Even playing the ball would have been effective. It was kind of a wait for it. Oh, I'm going to start
passive.
running. Yeah. So I get it. First game happens, new defensive coordinator, Al Golden's off to the Bengals and everything like that. So there were some shifts here. And I think Notre Dame needed to get this. Mikey was talking about popping bubbles early with Arch Manning and everything like that. I think Notre Dame needed to get this out of the way. They showed that they have some fight, which is great. Absolutely great. And they can build upon it. But boy, tough one to go down and lose in week 1.
Yeah, I will say, what is the historical rivalry with those two? Notre Dame's still leading a lot, but Notre Dame has really struggled to beat Miami at Miami. I can't remember what the stat was, but it's been a long time since Notre Dame's won on the road at Miami. This, though, like CJ Carr, dude, I mean, he said all the right things at the podium also. Like, says he wasn't good enough. That's great. Yeah, we attack it tonight. We attack it tomorrow. And, there were flashes from him. That one, the first touchdown pass where he was scrambling around like Johnny Manziel. I'm like, what are you doing? And it turns into his first touchdown pass. Like, gamer. So that's something right there. Like, I was impressed with that. He did have even though you didn't really like it compared to, Riley Leonard's running, he did have the running touchdown, the rushing touchdown as well. So, there's flashes from CJ Carr, don't you think?
Yeah. And I'm not saying like, oh, bring back Riley and all that kind of stuff. I was surprised that it was the approach so soon with CJ. He obviously is wildly skilled. I think he was one of the top recruits coming out of high school, and he's been highly touted and everything like that. He's got the talent and the skill set. It's just a matter of how do you go about developing it here. And there's something to be said for throwing people to the wolves in week 1, seeing how they react, seeing how they can perform and under pressure and everything like that. There's another there's another thing to like help them develop, right? So he wasn't going up against Matt Patricia, a Super Bowl winning DC. So I'm just, part of me is I'm okay with the loss, which is tough for me to say. But there definitely needs to be a steep learning curve on all fronts. And the offensive line didn't perform as well as I thought they would have.
I was going to say that's where I think my biggest disappointment in Notre Dame was the offensive line and kind of defensive, like just trenches in general, which surprised me because I always associate, maybe this is like a fallacy, but like I always associate Miami more with like awesome skill position guys, not necessarily awesome trenches. But Cristobal is an offensive line, and he's an O-line guy. So, I mean, their O-line was right. They were solid. But let's look at this. Okay, think about this. Like if you're a Notre Dame fan, which you are, which I'm slowly becoming, like there's still a lot of hope here. Let's look at their schedule. Like last year, remember last year? This is a way better loss than the Northern Illinois loss week 2 last year. And look at how the season progressed last year. Great season. Here's their schedule. All right, losing to Miami, which who knows? Like that's the other thing about week 1 college football is like who knows how these losses are going to age. Like Miami right now, with that win, they're probably, 6, 7 in the country. Like, and if they continue to be great, that loss is going to age pretty well. Obviously, you want to win, but sometimes those losses can be all right on your report card. This Texas A&M game, dude, obviously they got the bye next week. Luckily, get things right. Got to win this Texas A&M game though, because then you look at the rest of the Notre Dame schedule. Boise State, I doubt they're going to be ranked 25 anymore. There's no other ranked teams, at least current ranked teams on the schedule, which come college football playoff time, like those quality wins come into play. So they have to win this game against Texas A&M. I mean, who knows? Maybe USC or maybe some of these other schools end up being ranked and they get some ranked wins. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I think next. I hate the week 2 bye. Dumb, absolutely stupid. What? That's all I can say about it. Absolutely stupid. Like should not be part of the game. If you're gonna have a bye, make it week 8 to 10. Like, and even that, I hate it.
It's just a wasted bye. It's like you're not banged up yet. Like
it's foolish. So I don't know what the scheduling was there, but anyway, it's a must win for the A&M game. It's going to be incredibly difficult. Granted, this one's at ND, so they might have a better chance. Last year they showed up game 1, taking out Texas A&M, which was incredible, and it showed glimmers there of what they could be. Ultimately slipping with the directional school Illinois loss, but they righted the ship. I think you're right though. It's got to be an absolute win for the A&M game. I think there are a few other games, even though they may not be ranked, that are going to be very difficult and they're going to be competitive teams. So like SC, kind of a mystery box, but they have talent like we're talking about here. And you don't know any given Saturday with an SC team who's going to show up and how they're going to perform. So that's a big question mark there. I think Syracuse is going to be kind of formidable, and that's wild for me to say, but I think they're not going to be easy. And then you got BC with Bill O'Brien there at the helm, and they lost Castellanos and everything to Florida State, but they'll be interesting to watch as well over the next few weeks. But you're absolutely right. I think the Miami win, honestly, was probably a must win, and the A&M game now. You cannot lose this one, and you have to win, I think, by 7+.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing. It just magnifies the pressure and the meaning of this Texas A&M game. But, I mean, like, who knows, dude? It's a long season. We'll see if any of these other teams turn up to be, like, quality opponents and that come college football playoff. But it's not a bad loss, dude. I think right now Notre Dame's still should be ranked top 10. Quality loss like by 3 on the road, new quarterback against a more experienced quarterback. A lot of good things to take away from there. Okay. So you got anything else on Notre Dame? You want to get off
I have to lean back on the fact that being down 21-7 in the second half and mid third quarter and getting it tied with a minute left, a minute and change left, that did show some serious drive and grit. I think that isn't always present with Notre Dame. They had it last year. Obviously, that's why they made it as far as they did, which is really that's the part that's most exciting, because under the helm of Marcus Freeman, they've shown it not just a blip on the radar one season and a couple games with like Penn State and how those all ended in the playoff, but they're showing that it's more of a habit and it's constant, which is huge. So I'm okay with this loss.
What we're just talking about. It's a culture that's instilled there in Notre Dame, which slipping over. They're siphoning it like the Monstars in Space Jam from Alabama. Now Notre Dame's having this elite culture. All right. Last thing I'll say on that. Miami historically, like it can be really a tough place to play or a pathetic place to play. They set a record. They set an attendance record for that game at Hard Rock Stadium. So like it was a hostile environment.
Yeah.
It was a
tough.
All right. Let's be serious about this Arch Manning situation. He was way too overhyped, literally coming into the game as the Heisman betting favorite. I think we all agree it was kind of ridiculous. And his performance was, let's call it, underwhelming. I will throw up a couple of these. There is the internet memes going around about Arch Manning are quite funny. Okay, there's some of those. We're going to throw some of those up. But hey, we have to also talk about Matt Patricia, the DC of Ohio State, coming in and just dialing up a defense and making things difficult for Arch. All right, talk about this. Give me your initial feelings and thoughts on this Texas Ohio State game.
Was kind of tough to watch that first half. And I said it on last week's episode. I feel for Arch, man. The pressure and the expectation that's put on top of his shoulders and being the number one ranked team already. But I think it's unfair to the kid. Like, this is his first real go. And not only that, he's going against probably the best team in college football right now and probably the best coaching staff in all of college football right now. So all the chips are stacked against him. Second half looked far more comfortable. But ultimately, I think it boiled down to he was going up against a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator who knew how to get into the mind of a starting young quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of, I mean, we're talking about when we talk about some of these other games, like a lot of young new quarterbacks making, I know this wasn't his first start, but let's call this his first real start on the road in a super hostile environment. Like, yeah. And Matt Patricia's defense was legit. Sark talked after the game about how impressed he was with the Ohio State defense, and especially with how well they disguise their coverages.
Yeah.
And for a new starting quarterback, a young 20, 21-year-old kid, I don't care what your last name is, that's tough. Couple that with the hostile environment of the horseshoe. It's just like he was kind of set up to fail simply because of the expectations. What are you going to say, Mike?
It's the exact hardest possible way to start out. You have all this hype. You're going against Ohio State, at Ohio State in a horseshoe, and you're going against a big-time former NFL coordinator. And so I think it's actually good kind of to start off this way and burst the bubble of all the hype off the start. Now the pressure's off. Now it's like, okay, he's human. Now he can start, settling in. And as you saw, he was so much better the second half. Like, he's just going to settle in and get better and better. But, it's good to burst the hype bubble.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I will say this though, like this was his first throw of the game, and this was just like it's just a miss. Scott, he was sidearming it a lot as a quarterback. What do you make of that? His mechanics look bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this day and age, the mechanics of old aren't necessarily as necessary as they once were, right? So we got a lot of guys coming out. You got Patrick Mahomes and the like, Lamar Jackson, just throwing any which way they possibly could. And Brett Favre was that kind of guy back in the day. Even Steve Young back in the day was that kind of dude and was really effective. And I feel like more and more players, Arch and those guys that I mentioned before, are lessening their adherence to what the stereotypical quarterback's throw mechanics are and just getting the ball to where it needs to be. Granted, this didn't make it. But at the same time, if it's his first throw, and as we were just talking about right here, this guy's coming in as for all intents and purposes, the first start of his career, the first consequential start of his career. He's going up against a juggernaut in the coaching staff and on the field in Ohio State. Like, one throw isn't going to, and especially the first throw, isn't going to dictate how you play the rest of the game. But obviously he had jitters, regardless of his last name, regardless of the big time sort of scenarios he's been in before. It's going to happen. And, side arming, yeah, it's not great. Especially when you're throwing things like this, but for all intents and purposes, he's going to get it right. And side arming is not going to be the indicator of whether or not he's going to be a top NFL pick or not.
Yeah, that's true. We have kind of burst the to use your terminology, Mike, we've burst the bubble of traditional.
Yeah, see, that's good terminology. What do you think about this comparison? The sidearm as a quarterback is when you're really comfortable. You think you can just sling things. It's the same thing with the standing up running back stance you see with Ashton Gentry, and it's like that kind of like, I'm so comfortable, I can make it happen, whether or not I'm technical sound or not.
Yeah, I think you have to earn that though. There's like a rule in filmmaking where it's like, learn the rules so you can break the rules. And it's like, once you have a couple good throws in with good mechanics, then you can start sidearming it maybe and look really, really cool there.
Yeah. Mechanics break down though when you're on the run. And that's what Manning was doing right there. Arch was doing right there. He was kind of on the run. Granted, there was no one within a 10-yard radius of the receiver there. So it's just a bad look for your first throw.
It is, yeah, especially for the first throw. I will say this. This is a great post here. I think that we all believe this. Don't ridicule Arch Manning for struggling in his first real start at the defending national champion. Ridicule the media that handed him the Heisman and named him the first pick of the NFL draft for clicks. So just all this just unnecessary pressure and expectations on the poor. I actually think, first half was pretty brutal. Very understandable. I actually think that there were flashes of like, okay, there it is. I get it. There it is. There's the guy that I think people are talking about. There were flashes of that when I saw I did see some really incredible arm talent moments, and just impressed kind of with his velocity on the ball. Like, it's just zipping it in there sometimes. He did have a really great throw up the left sideline, like right in between the corner and the safety in the second half there. And look, they lost by one touchdown to the defending national champion on the road.
On the road, yeah.
You could make an argument that they would still be favored against Ohio State, like if they played them tomorrow at home, or maybe even on a neutral site. So it's like all these people overreacting. It's like Arch is still going to be a really good quarterback, and I think this just hopefully chilled out all of this mania. It's like tulip mania in the Netherlands back in the day,
Good historical reference. Great historical reference.
Thank you.
No, I think you're right on all fronts there. It's just, to Mikey's point, popping the bubbles, great for Arch. Expectations are lessened. Getting him off of the Heisman watch list, I think, was absolutely necessary because, like I said, unfair to the guy. Absolutely unfair. I think one of the biggest takeaways outside of those mechanical change-ups and the placement of the ball, as you were talking about, Nick, it was his mental approach comes second half. It's like, you can falter first and second quarter, but it's how do you respond to those failures and those hiccups in the first half and go about producing in the second. He showed as a young quarterback, he has the mental fortitude to not only do it against a juggernaut, against a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. Like, he found ways to get the ball down the field. And yeah, his stats weren't incredibly gorgeous or pretty or anything like that, but he moved the ball. He got points on the board. He helped his team get into a position to potentially win, even though he didn't do so in the first half. So I think those are the biggest takeaways from this. Like, anybody who was expecting him to go like 4 tuds and 300 plus was kidding themselves.
Yes.
But I think the biggest thing was his mental fortitude to be able to adjust in this game and do his best in the second half to get his team in a position to potentially win.
Ohio State's quarterback, their passing game wasn't great either. He only threw 20 yards. So it's also one of those games, 7-40, just one of those low scoring games off the bat.
Yeah. And last week, it's like offenses take a little bit more time to click when you start the season. Defenses oftentimes are a little bit more ready. That's why we said, we thought this was my prediction on this game was 17-14. I did think the Texans would win, but I thought it was going to be 17-14. Okay, it's 14. It's pretty low scoring. Last thing on Arch, just because this is so funny. It's so funny, okay? And all right, here it is. It says, we've been comparing Arch Manning to the wrong uncle.
Oh, my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What
the... So, Arch Manning did have a little bit of Uncle Rico mechanics here and there. Scott, you ever watched Napoleon Dynamite? That was big in the Alfieri house.
Oh, yeah. Donde está la biblioteca? Right there kind of frustrates me because I also said last episode that if the ball touches the receiver's hands, especially within a certain radius, it's incumbent upon the receiver to bring the ball in. That was a catchable ball, even though it wasn't the prettiest ball, even though it was behind him and jumped him. Like, you got to reel that in. There were some balls that also needed to be caught, even though they weren't perfectly placed, like a Peyton Manning throw or an Eli Manning throw of his uncles. So some of this does fall on the shoulders of his teammates, but as the leader of the team, ultimately falls on him.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can touch it, you can catch it, even if it comes out like Uncle Rico throwing a steak in the player's face.
That was a
All
dive.
right,
Smacked him right in the eyes.
that was hey, but if you're throwing it sidearm, it better be a dime. Uncle Rico is actually his mechanics are unusual, but he puts the ball or steak where it needs to be. All right, so there's that. Those are still two of the best teams, still possibly two of the top 3 teams in college football right now, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see those guys late in the college football playoffs. And Arch is going to get better and better throughout the season. And I will say, shout out to Julian Sayin there, the Ohio State quarterback, because he did, like, Mikey, you said it wasn't a crazy statistical game, but also his first start against Texas. Like, that's big time. All right, let's talk about the destruction and fall of a once great culture. Okay, the collapse of a society. Alabama football. Okay, Alabama going to Florida State, who won what, 2 games last year, I believe. Was it that? Did they win 2 games last year? Alabama coming in at number 9 and losing to Florida State. And this is what's crazy. Okay, Kalen DeBoer, head coach of Alabama, is now 9-5 at Alabama with 4 losses to unranked teams. Nick Saban didn't have losses to 4 unranked teams in total in his final 16 seasons as the Tide coach. Wow. This dude in one season has 4 losses to unranked teams. And Saban, it was like 240 games or something before Saban had 4 losses to unranked teams. So that, all right, not good. And just the culture of Alabama football. Like, you look on some of these things on tape, like, look at this defense. Look at this effort on defense. Just like Nick Saban would murder this guy. I think, what is it? Number 18. Look at him loafing from the backside here. Just jogging backside. Nick Saban would take away this guy's scholarship. Like, this would not happen in Alabama of old. And now in this Kalen DeBoer era, the Alabama Crimson Tide are unrecognizable. What do you think? What do you make of this?
Yeah, that's a terrible look for that guy. 18's going to be trying to hide in film, but you can't hide from the film. It's going to show it. That's tough. Just like I sided with the coach or the quarterback in Arch, and hey, let's pump the brakes on everything. I think the expectation of Alabama, once they lost an absolute legend and college GOAT in Nick Saban, probably not fair to Kalen DeBoer. Obviously, you'll want to see Alabama not lose to unranked teams. If you're losing to ranked teams in close games, different. But when you're losing to unranked teams, that's the tough part. But I still think the expectation of Kalen DeBoer and what he's bringing to the table is a little high for a second-year coach. Granted, it is at Alabama, so it's kind of between a rock and a hard place, man.
Fair point. And I think that there is some credence to, like, this, what you were saying right there, and this right here kind of backs it up. It says Alabama seems to be strapped financially compared to other programs. There's no big oil money. The boosters can't afford a Kalen DeBoer buyout. I mean, the people calling for Kalen DeBoer to be fired already after 14 games, that's silly.
It's foolish.
Even though it's not good. His buyout is apparently like $70 million. So it's like, you guys are stuck for a little bit.
Mulligeta's doing that deal too.
Yeah, geez. Yeah, you guys are coming to come with the Cleveland Browns. You guys are strapped with a bad contract. Congrats. This is what this quote tweet says. I said this years ago. This is why Saban left. If money's all that matters, Bama doesn't have as many rich boosters as most other top programs do. Having said that, talent really isn't Alabama's issue right now, but there's something to say there. But I will say, like, it is hard stepping into the shoes of Nick Saban, but it is still Alabama. Like, it shouldn't fall off this fast, and it shouldn't fall, like, culturally. It seems different culturally. Look at this, right? Hold on. This is the Alabama that we grew up with. These, like,
scary.
It's like, Alabama used to have this intimidation factor, okay? And this is Alabama now. They're posting TikToks.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a different culture. It used to be Alabama gets off the bus and you're like, oh, dude, we're playing Alabama. Even Johnny Manziel. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Here's why Alabama's so scary is because it's not – you kind of like USC, you get a lot of 5-star, like, big-time athletes, big-time recruits. You get a lot of big-time athletes, big-time recruits at Alabama. But at Alabama, the culture of it is that, yes, they have all this athleticism and talent, but they're so disciplined because of Saban.
Yes.
Other programs can get this kind of talent, but they can't discipline them and keep them like in line and good teammates the way that Saban can. So Saban's able to get the best of both worlds out of like superstar talent without letting the superstar mindset be a cancer in the locker room. And that culture, after setting that for 16 years, to drop off that fast from this new guy, like, what are you coming in and making a bunch of changes? Just carry it. If you go in and just hold the platter, you could hold on to that culture for at least 3 or 4 years before the drop off. The analogy is like when Michael Scott is leaving the office, okay, and he has all of his clients, all of his big clients, and he hands it off to Andy Bernard, okay, and he goes, just you can handle it. And the second he starts calling, he goes, I lost him. I lost your client. That's the analogy.
That is a great analogy right there. And listen to this. In 14 games that Kalen DeBoer has been the head coach, we're talking about that discipline, Mike, because obviously Alabama had cream of the crop athletes in the most insane discipline and intensity. Every single game that Kalen DeBoer has coached Alabama, they have had more penalties than their opponent. Every single one. Just and they had same was the story this weekend. Like that says a lot right there. Undisciplined. Like that wouldn't fly under Saban. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah. I think that's one of the more telling statistics and elements of this entire conversation. I think right there, the TikToks and everything, the intimidation factor versus today, I think is more of a generational thing and a generational athlete issue. Because we're seeing that a lot in a lot of different locker rooms. That is just, no, please stop. No, don't do that. And so I think that's part of the issue there. Granted, you can kind of lock that down. I mean, you got West Virginia kind of doing the same with the hard edge approach and everything, with Rich Rodriguez coming in and saying like, that's not going to fly in this. And you can remove phones from a locker room, and like, that's doable on a team. Like you can institute those rules. And I'm sure they have some element of it, but it's like, at this point, you got to get the train back on the tracks. And you're probably going to have to clamp down and do things differently and kind of go in a similar mold of the Saban route. But you're talking about the steep drop off, like falling off a cliff here with Alabama. Yeah. It's not as though we haven't seen this happen before with, say, the Patriots when Tom Brady left. What happened there? It's becoming more and more clear, I think, while football is one of the greatest sports teams ever invented by man. And it's not one man can necessarily will a team to victory. It has to be a group effort and a team effort, which we all love. There is something to say about one man really being the bedrock of a culture, though. And
great man theory.
Yeah. Great man theory. And I think that's what we're seeing play out here in the same way that we saw the Tom and the Patriots situation.
Well, speaking of, like, this is kind of debated in like history, not to get this too philosophical, but like the great man theory. It's like, is history shaped by individual great men? Like, or great meaning like people who accomplish enough. I'm not saying like moral or anything, but like great in terms of like Napoleon, like great man theory. He influenced a lot of the culture that we live in today. Just the singular guy by what he did in his life. Nick Saban did that at Alabama, man. I believe in great man theory in sports. Also, look at this. Can you see this? Look at the change in the office from Nick Saban. They just eroded the culture. That was Saban's office. Traditional, old school, also beautiful. And they made it into this modern, soulless slop. And that's also speaks to the erosion of the culture of Alabama football. Am I overreacting?
No, not at all. I love Saban's office right here. Looks like something straight out of Master and Commander, just straight off of a captain's ship office, like in his quarters and everything. That's beautiful. And honestly, a metaphor for how he directed the program. He was the captain at all times. What he said went. Everybody else fell in line. Down here, I keep seeing the jokes. This is a Verizon store down at the bottom. So couldn't be more accurate. And it's weird. It's just like you're losing what made you guys great. The blood and heart of your entire program is weirdly baked into these two photos right here. And the contrast is so insanely stark.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of silly to be like, well, the office, like how the office looks, what does that have to do with the culture? And actually, the physical spaces of places reflect the culture oftentimes. I am a big proponent of that. So is that enough bashing of Alabama culture right now? I mean, I would say out of all of the games, like everyone's overreacting after first week. Like, oh, Arch Manning sucks, all this stuff. Nonsense with most of the overreactions. I think the organization that actually should be worrying the most and has the most changes that need to be made is actually Alabama. Not just because they lost, but how they lost and like the effort, the lack of intensity. So if I'm Alabama, I'm panicking. Are you?
Yeah, I think there's seeds of panic just based off of last year and how it kind of fell apart. I still think it's a little too early, but if any program can get right, it's probably Alabama, just because of the talent they have in their stable.
Well, if they have the right coach. I was trying to find this tweet, like Kalen DeBoer. Apparently, I don't know. I was trying to find this tweet that I had bookmarked. Like Kalen DeBoer is his philosophy, coaching philosophy is like not the hard-nosed discipline guys. Like he thinks that everything can be done with like scheme and X's and O's. And so he really leans heavily on that side of the spectrum. When you need both, I don't know. I'm going to get worked up. All right. Enough of that. Another team that was pretty impressive. Actually, I would say very impressive. Brian Kelly, Scott. All right. LSU going into Clemson. I don't like this. They were wearing these 1-0 shirts before the game. I mean, that's pretty risky, I would say, but they backed it up and they won 17-10 against Clemson on the road. I mean, LSU might be a top 3 team right now. I think one of the teams probably that most impressed me. Nussmeier, obviously a more experienced quarterback than some of these other quarterbacks that we were talking about. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, Nussmeier was the difference maker here. I think his poise was what gave LSU a chance, and ultimately they took it. So the shirts kind of wild. That had to have been a position thing that they were throwing those on, because there's no way that the whole team was wearing that. If they were, I'm wrong, and that's wild. Bull.
Well, maybe it's one of these things where you go into every single week with a 1-0 mindset. Maybe it's one of those type of things. Not necessarily.
Fair.
To defend the shirt.
Okay, fair. All right. That's I'm not. I'll accept that. But yeah, I mean, and then I'm kind of sad that LSU won, because this was the one that we were talking about, like kind of the clash of the cultures of like transfer portal heavy or build your program from the ground up heavy with Dabo Swinney and that Clemson culture. And so I was a little bit sad to see that Clemson fell at home also. By the way, I wish I had a video of it. I should have. The ramp walk-in for Clemson, don't you think like some of these guys, like there's got to have been some pregame injuries on that at some point?
Yeah, over history.
One of the
of course.
Dangerous walk-ins in college football.
Dude, yeah, some Achilles jams. I don't know if you guys have ever had that, where you just jam your heel into the ground and it just feels like you blast your Achilles. That definitely happens running down that hill. One thing I hate that I'm the guy right here defending all of the losers of this weekend. But the beautiful thing about this was it was a competitive game. Sloppy here and there, I'm sure. Week 1, that happens, even with great teams. But it was a competitive game. And Clemson has seemingly righted the ship, because they had a down year or two. Ever since Trevor Lawrence left, there was big question marks. But it looks like Klubnik is really taking the helm and pushing them further. And with the culture and the style that you were talking to right there, Nick, it is good to see Clemson being competitive even in this day and age. And against an LSU, which like their back's against the wall. Brian Kelly's back's against the wall. If they have a down year, it's going to be loud for him. It's already super loud. So I think right now what ended up happening was just the poise and composure of a Nussmeier being able to bring it out in game 1 and lead his team to a few more scores than the other team. That's all it was, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm just looking right now at Clemson's schedule. Hold on, let me pull this up. I mean, because it's interesting. Like after this first weekend of college football, which conference is the most impressive to you? Because let's see, ACC, who they had the Florida State win over Alabama. Obviously, they lost here to the SEC. Miami, the win over Notre Dame, another ACC. Let's see. What else are we doing? Big Ten beating Texas, Ohio State. I mean, what do you think right now?
ACC is looking good. Even with Clemson playing hard, the 2 wins plus playing hard against an SEC opponent is a good sign for the ACC. So I would say they're coming out on top. Big question mark tonight to see how UNC does. And against TCU. But that's, if they end up winning, I think ACC wins the weekend.
We have such a question mark about Bill Belichick going to college. It's like, well, we just saw a former New England Patriots coach, granted as a coordinator with Ohio State, Matt Patricia, dominate defensively going into his college ranks here. So what do you think? What do you think for tonight, TCU or North Carolina?
I think ultimately UNC comes out with a win, just strictly due to the knowledge that Bill and his coaching staff can bring to the table and help scheme against another collegiate coach. I mean, the Matt Patricia thing, not that I should say it was a huge surprise to see an NFL coach do what they did on the defensive side of the ball, but it was, to a certain degree, quite impressive and how quickly it happened and how quickly he was able to get college guys to do what was needed. So I think it's going to be the same thing with Bill here and his coaching staff. And I think we're going to be surprised with gameplay, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think that he's going to be able to implement his culture like pretty reasonably fast. I mean, also, like, obviously they built a lot of that roster in the transfer portal. 35, 40 guys new in the transfer portal. And him recruiting guys that I think he probably thinks will fit his culture and will mold into what he's trying to build there. And so North Carolina, not to be like too overreacting, like, oh, Bill Belichick going to North Carolina, they're going to win the national championship. No. But I think that they could end up like end of the season ranked top 15, maybe cracking the top 12. I don't know. Do you think that's possible?
No, I think top 20 is probably more appropriate. I think what they're going to be this year is, the giant slayer. So I think they're going to struggle throughout the year, but when they go up against opponents like, say, even a Clemson or a Miami, I think they're going to get the better of those teams, and then they're going to drop maybe one or two here, probably that they shouldn't. I think that's kind of what the cadence is going to be. They're going to show those glimmers against the good teams and probably play to their potential, which sucks because, as we're just talking about here, it's like, oh, we think Bill can institute his culture and everything early. Yeah. I think it'll happen in those big games, but I don't know if it'll be the full season. So I think they're going to be the giant slayer.
All right. Okay. Just mark my words. I think
top 20,
top 15, maybe
okay.
Top at some point.
Write it down, Mikey, please. Keep us honest.
Lock it in. Hey, we do have to talk about LaNorris Sellers. Mike, you write that down?
I got it on the whiteboard.
Thank you. LaNorris Sellers of South Carolina. All this hype about Arch Manning. This is my Heisman right here. This dude, all right, 12 for 19, 209 passing yards, 2 touchdowns in the win against Virginia Tech. Just look at his strength. He is, and also we have to like huge respect for him because he's the guy who had some massive NIL offer, $8 million something to leave South Carolina. He's from South Carolina. He's a hometown kid. And look at his strength. This is so impressive. It's like, cannot bring him down. It's like a video game.
Yeah.
Get off me.
Yeah, the dip.
Dang.
That's more impressive on the run.
That's
doing
good
that.
core right there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good med ball slams and such.
Very off the charts.
You know what? I want to look at their schedule, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because he was fantastic, like very good last year. Let's see. Let me pull up their schedule, see if we got anything. Because what do they rank right now? 12?
Yeah, they'll pop the top into the top 10 very quickly, especially with that performance. I mean, that's the one quarterback performance of these games this past weekend that was like, whoa, this guy's ready to go. Nussmeier's right there as well. I think his draft stock, I think he was slated to be like the 6th quarterback in this draft, which was pretty low. I think he should be higher up with Sellers. But ultimately, I think with the Gamecocks, they were like this close to making the CFP, and Coach Beamer, I think this is his third or fourth season. Yeah. I think he's got that program moving in the right direction as the old ball coach did back in the early 2000s. And I think, South Carolina is always going to be one of those dangerous teams in the SEC. And I think with a quarterback like this, dude, they're going to be a problem.
They are, but hold on. I was just getting excited, and then I looked at their schedule.
Oh, it's an SEC schedule.
Dude, yeah. Okay, look at that gauntlet of currently as things stand right now, they have 5 ranked opponents in a row, and then Clemson at the end of the year. I mean, kind of a gauntlet. I think actually now that I think they have a top 10 most difficult schedule in college football this year. They're the opposite of North Carolina. North Carolina has one of the easiest schedules in college football this year, but he's been awesome. LaNorris Sellers. Good for him, and I respect him for staying at South Carolina despite the big offers. Okay, I just want to rub a little told you so in the face of Nico Iamaleava, who went to UCLA, left Tennessee to go play at Tennessee, one of the most formidable places to play and most exciting home stadium environments. Look, Mikey, you've been to a game at the Rose Bowl, like just a regular season game. I've been to one. It is not the vibe. Look at this.
Oh
It's
my
just like,
gosh.
you went from Tennessee to this due to stupid, short-sighted, selfish actions. And then also, he did not play well. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up his stats. It was pretty brutal.
I just, it's always so sad when stadiums do that thing where they put like the acronym of the team up in huge letters over a bunch of seats and stuff. Like, it's just sad.
Yeah.
Just don't mind these seats. Just consider these filled.
Yeah.
Decorative. Okay, here's what he did. 11 for 22, 136 pass yards, 50% completion, touchdown to interception. Like, not, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know it's week one. We're doing a lot of overreacting here, but
How much was he paid again?
less than he was making in Tennessee because pretty brutal. I will say Utah dominated them. Utah pretty good. Might be. I mean, Arizona State at the top of the Big 12. Utah's also at the top of the Big 12. Like after that week one, I'm like, okay, Utah's looking pretty damn nice.
Yeah, I think the most damning element of that entire breakdown right there that you showed. Yeah, it's week one for any quarterback, even somebody who's started before. They may not bring their A game, which he clearly didn't. I think the biggest tell right there was the 43-10 score. Oh, the defense got their brakes broken off.
Yeah, dude, 43-10, and just going, like, also dropping from SEC football to what is UCLA? They're Big Ten, or they're Big Ten, bottom of the Big Ten now.
Big Ten, yeah.
All right. Last thing here. I mean, I already said who I'm panicking about. Who do you guys think? Which after week one, overreactions, which of these preseason top 25 teams deserve to panic the most after week one?
Oof.
Alabama.
Yeah.
That's my
Also, yeah, I mean, Boise State was brutal. They got smacked by South Florida.
Texas shouldn't be panicking. That's a fine, that's just the first game type of, negatives. You get over that quick. But the Alabama thing, the culture reset, that's a much bigger deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with Mikey. It's Alabama. One, because of the gauntlet of the SEC schedule that I know they definitely have. Texas is not, they're in the SEC too, so they don't have a patty cake schedule. But the way in which they played was far more competitive, and you saw way more glimmers of hope and fight and competitiveness in even Arch and the rest of the team against as I said, probably the top program in college football right now. Boise State, Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State less so, but Boise State's going to have a more favorable schedule leading up to it. So I think they'll get right. They'll get back into a rhythm and everything like that. But that's a tough week one for them. Oh,
that's pretty brutal. But I'm hardcore. Alabama's the one that I would be worried the most about. All right, there we have it. There's the big games. Any other games you want to touch on? Oregon State, Cal coming into Reser Stadium, smacking the Beavs.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Not good. Not good, I would say.
What's happening? What's going on?
It's because Oregon State fell in love with the transfer quarterback. That's what happened. And since then, they just cannot. It's pathetic. It's the pitfall of these coaches. Fall in love with look at this transfer. We'll pay him whatever. And throw in whoever they have in their program who's been there, who's leading the team for years, who has the team, throwing them to the curb.
Yeah.
The next shiny thing. And they're paying the price.
It's so interesting. I feel like Oregon State, while I'm not a Beaver fan or a Duck fan, entered into that chaos. I was always curious as to why, like, the Beavers, I feel like they're always this close to making like the right move or to get on top and to become like the big brother of Oregon in the state. Like, why do you think, especially you, Mikey, having played there, like, why do you think that is, that they can't like get out of their own way?
Okay. We had incredible talent. We always had a lot of guys either getting not a lot, but like a good amount in comparison to the rest of Pac-12, getting drafted or signing and like having good NFL career. We had a lot of talent always. I think our culture was weak. We had very weak culture. And until we had Coach Mack, our strength coach, like really started helping turn around the culture because he changed it because I was there with the old staff before the Jonathan Smith era, and Coach Mack was the ultimate difference. And like we like really unified under that training and stuff. And one thing that I think that our coaching staff, because it was new young staff who just moved in, they were looking for quick patchwork fixes to justify, their contracts. So looking to, prove the points of like they just weren't long-term thinking about the culture and like creating a dynasty. It was they were using Oregon State as a launching pad. Can we put together a good enough season that this looks good of us coaching at this level where we can go to the next one? And that's ultimately what they did. Oregon State, and then the 80% of the staff went together to Michigan State to get out of the Pac-12 for a better opportunity.
Yeah.
So it was just short-sighted thinking, transfer patchwork.
Looking at you, Jonathan Smith. Hold on, I want to look about Michigan State. Michigan State, Jonathan Smith was like the darling of college football a couple of years ago, wasn't he? Like everyone's, man, this guy turned this around. Like Oregon State was quite good. And I'm looking, how was Michigan State in 24? Hold on, let's pull this up. Let's bash on them.
As you're looking that up, that's the one thing that's always confused me is like, why is it that Michigan State, I know they have a great basketball program and everything, and they've been competitive years here and there, especially in the Kirk Cousins era and everything like that in football. But why is it that like a university such as Oregon State, it just seems like, why are they somehow seemingly a lower tier with coaches, even as you're speaking to, Mikey? Like, why do they view that as a lower tier? Whereas they have the same opportunity to build a very, very formidable program.
That's what drives me crazy about this conference realignment stuff. Because if you take them university for university and program for program, it shouldn't be a step up. But because of the conference realignment, you're seeing like Oregon State is left without a conference, then of course they're going to jump ship there. And that's what really bothers me about that conference realignments. And like, yeah, man. And then you go to Michigan State and you're 5-7. It's like, guess who's not? Nobody's talking about Jonathan Smith anymore. Like they are a middling program right now, and he was awesome at Oregon State. So he could have stayed there and built something. Instead,
he was close. He was doing it. He was turning things around for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
and it's cool though because like that's the team you quarterbacked. You won the Fiesta Bowl. Like that's your team. And he was so revered in the Oregon State community from the school and everybody around and the fans. And then to leave that way was really hard for everybody to see because he left and he didn't. If I'm correct on the numbers, he wasn't making that much more going to Michigan State, and I think Oregon State matched it, but he was still set on. And I think it's all due to the conference collapsing and thinking about
the other aspect of him leaving was icky. Was like he was interviewed by Michigan State like right after he arrived one day. Like I think you guys had like a final game of the season, and then he was gone the next day and then interviewed the next day, and they're interviewing him at Michigan State and saying like, oh man, so what, how long have you been thinking about this? Like knowing that you wanted to come to Michigan State, because he said at Oregon State, I think he was telling the players like, I'm staying here. And then he said in that interview, yeah, I mean, this has been a long time coming. I've been thinking about this for a while and known for a while. Like, it's been pretty,
darn it, Johnny.
So I am not a fan of that.
Yeah, that's tough to hear, but I think you're right, Nick, and what you're talking about is it's the Big Ten, SEC, ACC sort of bias. I mean, the ACC being the littlest of brothers of those three. I think that's what's happening with the realignment, and even Pac-12. I mean, if we're all being honest here, the competitive nature of the Pac-12 over the past decade hasn't been as strong as it once was. So it is a shame to see even like the coaches who were part of that former Pac-12 makeup. Not willing to dive in and like rebuild its greatness, but willing to jump ship to another bigger conference.
Yes. And what breaks my heart also about that is you're saying like the Pac-12 competitiveness was not great in the last 10 years. And you're right, except the last year when it was all announced that this was the last year of the Pac-12 and then all these teams are going to different conferences, the Pac-12 had the most ranked teams in the top 25 out of every single conference. It was like, whoa, let's keep it together. We're good. and then it just fizzled away. Heartbroken.
Yeah,
So,
but that's why you got to take it seriously before it ever comes to that point. Like, do it all the time, not just when you're on the chopping block.
yeah, that's true. There's a lesson there. You hear that, Alabama? Look what can happen to you. All right, get it right. All right, there we have it. College football is back. Notre Dame, good loss, hopeful loss. Okay, Alabama, panic. Texas and Arch, you're fine. LSU, you're something. And South Carolina, good luck with that schedule. All right.